Hey, let's make sure that I am not muted. I'm not. Different microphone, different place. I'm back in our apartment in Manhattan, and want to say hi to everyone. And if you can say hi back, I'd greatly appreciate it. Let me know where you are. I've already told you I am in the belly of the beast, Manhattan, and would love to know who's joining me and where you're from, and let me know whether this is your first live stream or one of many. And also, let me know if I'm running kind of hot. It looks like I'm popping, and I can lower the microphone a little bit if that would make it better. Uh, so, hey, whoop, okay, this looks really small, so let me make these bigger. There we go. All right. Hey, Christopher. Hey, Mike Paul. Don, good to see you. And Ubaidullah from Dubai, 2 o'clock in the morning. Wow, you're a trooper. And Jane Ad, Washington, D.C. Hi, Jane. Um, yes, you are. uh, Winter Haven, Florida. Christy's in the house. Um, one of many, but had to skip many due to the time. I can only imagine 2 o'clock in the morning. Jesus. From Venezuela, Carlos. And Mike Paul from Athens, Ohio. And gained down by 1/3. Cool. All right. That helps. Let me know if that helps. It looks like it's not running hot now, so that probably is better. Um, and let's see who else. So thanks, Mike Paul. Um, farming, Framingham, Mass. Cool. Cool, Alan. Nice to see you. Okay, thanks, Don. Leon in Manhattan, too. Cool. John Michael, California. First video session with me. Wow, cool. Um, Hi, Rich. City of Angels. Thank you just for all you have been doing. But this is the first time you're on, so what do you know? How do you know what I've been doing? Although, has everyone seen how much like I called the big tech stuff? Now that the world is almost starting to get back to normal. Um, Jamaica's in the house. Hey, Omar. Um, I pronounced your name perfectly. Wow, that's shocking. Okay, sounds good. Good. Milos from Serbia. Oh, I still haven't reached out to Matt Church yet. Mike Paul said better, cool. Sylvie from Vivaris. Sylvie Vivaris from Canada. Whoops. Um, and this is Carl from Italy. Enjoyed your last email about journals to broadcast. About journals. Good stuff. Cool. Um, Whoops, let me turn that off. Do not disturb. Cool. So I hope everyone's doing well. And I thought it would be a great, yeah, I thought it'd be cool. Oh, we got some more people here. We got Lubov from Colorado. And Lubov, did you move from Russia? Didn't you used to live in Russia? Were you the client of mine that used to be a coach in Russia? I think so, right? Kat here from Denmark. Cool. Very cool. So, yeah, it occurred to me I was working on this presentation, and what we've been talking about, I guess, for the live streams that we've been doing, and for those of you who are not aware, doing these live streams twice a week, and actually, it's moving in a direction. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. Um, and for those who are new, what you want to do is you want to make sure to join our Facebook group. It's completely free, and in there you will find bunch of stuff, free reports I've given away, some free presentations as well, if you look back in the archives, and some really positive feedback on some of those reports. It's also where we announce all these live streams, and it's completely free to join. And we would love to have you there. Lots of major players are contributors there, and we like to help one another, and generally questions get answered pretty quickly. So the the So yeah, I invite you to join that. And so I've been doing these twice a week, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. and Thursdays at 6 p.m. And I've been doing them from the Hamptons because that's where we've been. But Kim's getting ready to get the Hamptons house for rent for the summer. So right now, this weekend, there's going to be a wedding there, and then I think July 1st. Yeah, July 1st, they'll people will be renting it for the summer, and I think I'll be in Baltimore working Agora stuff. So that's where I'll be. But anyway, so I've been so I was telling you about the group and all that, and then I wanted to explain where we've been, and then I kind of explain where we're going. So I've just been talking about different things that fascinate me that I believe entrepreneurs could benefit from knowing about. And that's what we've been doing on these live streams. And I've also been answering questions, any questions that people have. Um, I've been happy to answer as it relates to marketing or business growth or something like that, productivity, blah, blah, blah. And so glad to answer that. And the that's interesting. I just noticed the toaster's on. That's kind of strange. Um, so I've been doing that, and what I've been sharing are a lot of things that most people haven't heard from other people. Some they have, but what I've been trying to do is share concepts that really, for whatever reason, a lot of my concepts have kind of gone in the mainstream, but not some, and so some that I haven't, that I've come across. And when I say my concepts, they're not necessarily concepts I've developed, just concepts I've come across and taught for years that other people have picked up and taught well, but there's these areas that haven't. And so one area we've been talking about is how to manage information better because we're surrounded by it now more so than ever before. And so it's my contention that the way that you manage, interact, leverage, strategically interact with information will determine to a great degree your success or failure. And not only that, that your learning ability will correlate with when applied action is also added with what you earn and that there is a direction that we should all be thinking about where we're going and how do we do that. And so we've been talking about distinctions and mental maps and how that is kind of the way I see it, the kind of fundamental layer of a skill or knowledge. It's not necessarily technical skill as much as what I'm calling mental maps and concepts that would allow take your most favorite idol entrepreneur, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, whomever. And let's say that they woke up in your body tomorrow. They knew everything that they knew, but now they were you. And 1 year from now, do you think they would end up where you will end up in a year? And if not, it's not really any skill set per se that's probably going to be different. It's how they see the world, what they notice, what they don't notice. What they notice then determines what actions they take, and then what develops from there. And so distinctions, mental maps, these kinds of things, boundaries that create those are really the fundamental components of expertise and knowledge and performance, therefore. So, anyway, sorry, I'm just getting some gum out. So, that being said, then we kind of moved on to, well, okay, so let's talk about managing information a little bit. And I showed how I went from regular reading and highlighting to speed reading using the iPad, which is a game changer for me. And then how the speed reading came became a workflow kind of process for learning itself, and that I would speed read books on the elliptical by listening at high speed while it's also pacing using an app called Voice Dream. And then if I thought the book was worthwhile, if it was good, I would then read it again, and that read with voice stream would be on the elliptical, and I probably would read it in an hour and a half or 2 hours. It would take to go through the whole book, and that one of the reasons why I use a speed strategy on everything that I learn is that there's a lot of research that shows the more fully engaged, the more focused you are on the learning, excuse me, the more you will retain. And that there are two factors that can greatly accelerate what sticks in your brain. One is attention. The other one is intention. So attention, the more focused you are on the message that's being delivered, whether that's audio, video, or reading, uh, the more will be remembered. And then also, the more you have an intention to use that knowledge in your future, the more the myelin will actually grow around the new synapses and dendrites and axioms and whatever that connect. And that's because, well, they've done these studies. It was either the Talent Code or the Talent Myth books, which one of those that talks about like a kid who practiced piano for an hour a day would get better than someone who practiced 3 hours a day if the one that practiced an hour a day was clear in their intention that they were going to be playing piano for the rest of their lives, like as an adult, whereas the one practicing 3 hours a day who didn't see themselves playing after the summer or after high school or whatever would not form the same brain connections. And that makes sense. Our brains are highly efficient. You know, it's 2% of our mass, but 20% of the energy that our body uses. And if it drew energy like systems out there other than us, I hear it would be a ridiculous amount of energy to do what goes on in here. Anyway, so we talked about that. Okay, so I would read on the elliptical if I liked it, quick reader, right? No, sorry, voice stream. Then after that, if I liked the book, I would read it in an app called Goodreader. Goodreader, I would highlight it. Then after I highlighted it, I would then send all the highlights to myself. I now use an app. I use a website called someNotes.com, which takes everything I highlighted in the document and then creates a new document with just the highlights. I take that, I make a PDF out of that, and I also turn that into a book that I then speed read. So now I'm just speed reading. It's now the third time I'm looking at the material. But since it's the third time I'm looking at the material, I can go through it a lot faster, and I'm training my eyes to go even faster. So nowadays I go at 2,000 words a minute, 3,000 words a minute, 4,000 words a minute, and then I'll back it down to around 2,200, 2,300 words a minute, because that's generally like the rate I read these days. But when I started, it was like 300 words a minute, and then I went to like, I'd go to 1,000 words a minute, 1,500 words a minute, then 500 words a minute, and I found that like by just learning how to move my eyes fast enough, ultimately I'd be able to also process as fast. And the big thing that you have to get over with speed reading is subvocalization. That's where you're using your tongue and to pronounce the words inside your head. And one of the two easy ways to get past that: one, chew gum. When you chew gum, you can't do it. And then the other is stick a pencil in your mouth and bite down. So either of those will work. And that's been a game changer for me. So anyway, as I was saying, why I wanted to read faster and how that relates to attention, sorry, is that um, I found that it was much easier for me to pay attention when I went a lot faster because it would capture my attention. I'd have to pay attention. When it went fast enough that it needed my full focus, it I then was no longer distracted. And when I played anything or watched anything or even read something at a slower speed, I found it very difficult with my ADD brain to pay attention, to stay with it. But at a high speed, it becomes much more like a game to me. And then I hyper focus, which is one of the positives of ADD, and I can zone in, and time goes by really fast, and I absorb at a much higher rate because I'm paying total attention. Someone says my name, I don't even hear them. So, so we've talked about all these things, and we've also talked about how I use Evernote, right? Because so I take the PDF that I get of my highlights that goes into an app called Quick Reader, which is the app that has taught me how to speed read. Just wanted to get that taste. Um, and then from there, I speed read it, like I said. I also put it in an app called Say It. It's like a $5 app on my Mac. And that turns all my highlights into an audio file that I save on my phone as an audio book. So it saves the audio file at 400 words a minute. So I can make it 800 words a minute, if I go at 200%, which is super fast for this. And and so I can listen to my notes that way. And then when I put it into Evernote, and when I go through it again now in Evernote, so now I'm reading my highlights for the fourth time. Um, I will bold anything the first time through that I think is important. And I will then, the next time I look at that note, I will highlight parts of the bold. And then the next time I will consolidate all of the highlights. And then the next time I will actually start writing my responses. And a great Matt Church tip, actually, is that whenever you're going through any sources in any area of your own expertise, anything you highlight to build your own intellectual property, you should then put after that sentence, yes, but, and yes, and finish both sentences to then formulate your point of view. I think that's genius. I wish I could take credit for it, but I would be a liar, so I won't take credit for it. But I think that props to Matt Church for that idea, if that's where I heard it from. So, yeah, yes, but, and yes, and, right? Um, and you can play other things with it, but I thought that was such a good idea. Anyway, so then I'm like having a conversation with the author on the most salient points and also expressing mine. And then that my Evernote system has this growing capacity because of this progressive summarization technique that I learned from Tiago Fort. And that leads us, I guess, to today. We've talked, oh, no, that's not. We actually talked about one other thing. I hope I'm not boring anyone by kind of giving this quick recap, although I don't know how quick it is. Give me some feedback, guys. Let me know if I should just get to it or if this is useful. Um, so we then started thinking about, like, with all this knowledge, right? And this idea that we've moved from a society because we're so inundated with information, right? That many of us who are old enough to have been born like in the 70s or 80s, earlier times, then that we had a very different relationship with information. Like we had a very bucket type relationship with with information. Information would come at us and we would file it away, right? We put it in buckets. When email first came out, you probably had a bunch of different folders, and then as your email came in, you put it in the folder, and blah blah blah. And that was effective when the flow of information was a lot less. I hope you still don't do that, because we don't live in an age anymore where it's efficient, where it's useful, or where it's even needed, to be putting information in buckets because it's coming at us too fast. And so, if you're not going to put information in buckets, what should you do? And what I am recommending is that one, you look at it from a standpoint that information comes at us in streams, right? It's a question of noticing for what's important to you. And when you are, and so you have to know what to notice for, right? So you should know, right, like the roles that you play in life, the areas of responsibility that you have, the projects that you're currently running. And those should be identifying topics that you spend time on, right? And and so these are the streams that are going by at you, and anything that captures your attention or curiosity should go into some central reservoir, right, where you can then process it. So, like, that's what I do. So while I'm reading books, off my iPad, whenever I'm reading an article online, I'm always, everybody has their own approach to this. What I do is I just save it to Evernote. Any article that looks somewhat interesting, save it to Evernote. When I then am in Evernote, I will go through the articles that I saved that day. And if it, as I look at it a little bit more closely, if I don't like it, I delete it. If I start reading it and I don't like it, I delete it. But if I read the whole thing, I've already bolded and I've already gotten that first layer done. And and now it just sits there to be processed further, right? So for those of you who are familiar with Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow, I've used my system two thinking to take this raw input and have turned it into the closest to output possible for my system one brain in the future to use. And the idea of why that's important is because one, we've moved into an era where we work more on a project per project basis. Even if we have a full-time job or something like that, we tend to work on projects with groups of people for the most part. And so uh, you never know how you might be able to pull stuff from one old project to a new project, right? Or that something that you did in the past could be very useful today, the format, the structure, or there's an area of expertise that you have that is important for you to stay up to date with. And staying up to date with it, it's nice to have a record of all the major ideas that you've come across, kind of similar to like how I feel about my journals and having those for the last 25 years. So, so that's why I use Evernote as like my personal knowledge management system. And and so as we were then talking about the input process that I use, that I want to now evolve, um, I wanted to be more purposeful in the stuff that I learn. Even though I have benefited greatly from serendipity in the stuff that I've read. And I think I will always have a certain amount of time that I allocate towards just reading whatever I find interesting at the moment. Because I think, at least for now, right, that seems to spark a lot of creativity for me. But but we were talking about like how to consistently get better so that you consistently make more. And that brought up this idea of future self, right? That we're keeping notes for our future self, and that we also know that our future self is someone who we would like to believe is going to make the best choice, but unless some miracle happens, our future self will be very similar to our current self. And our current self is like all the other selves out there who often make the easiest choice, not the best choice. And so, one of the magical forces of the universe is friction, because we can introduce friction in what are bad but easier choices. For example, if you always get home from work, not that anyone's going to work these days, right? But if you were, and you came home and you turned on your TV, like as a non thinking response, and that was a bad habit that you wanted to stop, the easiest way to stop it is to take out the batteries from the remote and put them in the kitchen. You're not getting rid of the batteries. You have the ability to watch the television anytime you want. you're just making it a little less convenient, right? Evaldo, a very famous copywriter at Agora that I work with, he leaves his phone upstairs when he goes and writes copy, turns it off and leaves it upstairs so that like it's too much of a pain for him to go grab his phone. Same concept. So we know that our future self is probably going to make the easy choice, not the best choice, and we can design our life as a choice architect, right? By using friction where I'm going to take the path of least resistance. I've like, at times I will summon willpower and I will overcome challenges. But for the most part, I'm going to take the path of least resistance. And so I have to make the path I don't want to take more resistance or create more friction. So eliminate the friction in areas of your life where it serves no purpose and insert friction in places that, you know, uh, where you would like to alter your behavior. For example, it's very easy for me to stick to a diet when I have no bad food in the house. When I have bad food in the house, that's another story, right? So when I used to live alone, I had no bad food in the house. Made it really easy. Um, anyway, and it doesn't matter if it's not my bad food. It could be my daughter's bad food. I'll eat hers. So let's go to the comments for a second, then we'll go a little bit further. All right. Let's see. Yeah, many years ago I won your program. Oh, yeah, that's why I recognize the name. The whole speed reading discussion was fascinating. There were some other apps mentioned as well. Yeah, I'm going to put something together on that. Cool. Recap is fantastic. Useful summary. I missed that video. It's they're all archived. You know, also model if you say yes, but can't take the credit. It's the yes and. It's just building up the idea base, so the credit is due. Super useful. Cool. Useful. Recap is useful. Summary is 100%. Bucket approach reminds me of data silos. Yeah, very much so. Would love to see a flowchart of how you process works with all of these applications. I use Goodreader and Evernote, but not the others, and obviously don't have a kick-ass process to consume the data like you've created. Yeah, I'm going to create something like that, actually. And I might even have already created it, although no, I don't think I did. I listed it in steps. Let's see. Does VoiceStream work with Kindle books? If not, what, let's see. What would you use for Kindle? Ah, gotcha. Um, no, what you can do though, well, I think can't you have Kindle read to you? I'm pretty sure you can have Kindle read to you, and then you can adjust the speed. It's not as good as Voice Reader. I mean, Voice Dream, sorry. But that's one of the reasons why I don't use Kindle. I don't use Kindle because I don't like not being able to do things that I want to be able to do with something that I've purchased. It's a pain in the ass for other reasons since I don't use Kindle, but that's what one of the benefits is that I get to. But you can put other PDFs and EPUBs in there, so you can buy it in another format, another electronic format. Um, yeah, that's what you'd have to do. Um, okay, so you guys saw the question. That was the question from Leon. All right, so that's like kind of where we've been, and then we started talking about uh, more about future self. That really, ideally, um, in the best of all possible worlds, there is a cause that's bigger than yourself that you've committed to, right? Um, that's the purpose. That's why you exist. That's why you've created your business. I'm saying in an ideal world. This is not. Um, this is not necessary. It's just highly beneficial. Um, right? You're committed to a cause bigger than yourself. That's why you exist. That's why you've built your business. And the reason why it's great if there's a cause bigger than yourself is because a cause bigger than yourself will have you transcend yourself. That, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, um, people who've created amazing things um, for the sake of society. Uh, when you're committed to something bigger than yourself, then your selfish concerns become less important. And when you're only committed to your own selfish concerns, then when you don't feel well or you don't feel like doing something, then there's no big deal. So you're committed to a cause bigger than yourself, right? And you know who you need to be, right? Not what you need to have and not what you need to do, but who you need to be in order to make that happen. And so we should look at future self like that, and we should hold ourselves we accountable to our future self because that's who our future self can be. And so, I've been experimenting with writing to my future self at night, holding myself accountable for how I live the day. And as we were talking about that, then what, hey, can you just check the toaster? I don't know if it's the sunlight hitting the toaster and so the red light's on, or if it's just that it's on. I think it's off and it's just the sunlight. But anyway, okay. Um, so is it on or is it just the light that's hitting it? The red light. Cool. Oh, did you cook anything? Yeah. So then you probably left it on. Um, so this future self and holding yourself accountable to that future self and recognizing, well, who that future self needs to be so that you can then set out a plan for learning what's necessary to be that person. And so that was kind of the conversation that we were having. And the reason why that was important was so that learning could be much more purposeful and strategic, that instead of just reading the next book because it sounded interesting, recognizing who you needed to be to that cause bigger than yourself, right? And then from there, build out the skill set necessary through what you learn. And so that concept has been what we've been talking about on these live streams and kind of dissecting it. And so why am I doing these? Where am I taking it? Um, Here's kind of what I've been thinking about recently. And so it's potentially will evolve or it could emerge into something else. But for now, I think it's going to be this. That okay, cool. That that I this is kind of what I do, right? Like I do this. This is how I was able to predict the things that I've predicted that have come true and all this kind of stuff and been in the forefront. And instead of doing it alone, I like doing it here with people like you, right? And hopefully over time I get better at doing this and I make it more entertaining if I can. And I use this time not necessarily to present, but to think out loud with you guys about whatever it is that I think is useful for you because that's where I'm aligned with, and think out loud to kind of further my thoughts on a certain topic. And that then I'm also going to have a podcast. The podcast, at first, I was thinking was going to be somehow interrelate, like more a piece of this, but now I've kind of been moved by the people that I work with in a different direction. Hey, baby. Yeah, and so now what we're thinking about doing is that the podcast then can be like the experts that I seek out um, and interview based on what we're talking about here, and so that it's interactive from that standpoint. So, for example, if we if there was a world's foremost expert, let's say, on how to construct the most useful self that you could, then I might want to talk to that person. So that would be for the podcast. And what I would do is I would read their books beforehand, discuss them on here, and then you would know all my thinking going on before I even got on. And so that's kind of what we're thinking about doing. Using this for me to kind of just think out loud in advanced topics. And I sound drunk. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not. I can assure you that. Um, but that's because he's used to listening to me at double speed. Um, let's see. Oop. Introduce friction in places where you see wisdom is altering behavior. Remove friction in places that can encourage better behavior. Um, and result. Did I get that correctly? Love it. Thank you. Yeah, introduce friction in places where it's too easy to do the wrong thing. Remove friction from the things that are the right things to do. That and until the path of least resistance is the right path. Um, uh, Tom. Like most people, I enjoy entertainment, but the primary reason I follow your work in these lives is what I learned from you. You could be as entertaining as watching paint, but keeping teaching all this info. I'll be here. Anything else is a bonus. Thank you so much. Oh, well, thanks for saying that, Tom. Well, it's interesting because I was I've been thinking about it, and if I'm going to do 2 a week, then I certainly can't be spending, a ridiculous amount of time prepping beforehand, or like I'm not going to have enough time to do all the other important stuff for my own thing. But at the same time, it does force me to kind of summarize my thinking about stuff, so I'm moving stuff forward, and in conversation things evolve, so I think that's kind of cool. So cool. And I do hope I still get more entertaining, not necessarily that I'm going to make this an entertainment show, but there's a lot of topics that I'll watch on a Joe Rogan show that I wouldn't necessarily just watch them, but it's more that I feel like I'm almost like a third person in that room, that he's having a conversation with one other person, and I'm almost like it's like two of my friends having a conversation. I'm just chilling. um, and so there's an authenticity to that, and there's an authenticity to thinking out loud, not knowing necessarily what's going to be said, but having coming in with a concept or an issue or a problem and kind of working it through. So anyway, so a couple years ago, I came across. So we had that conversation about future self, and I think, and then uh, what were we talking about in the last one? I don't remember. In the last presentation, we talked about what was it? Oh, maybe it was my process. Was that what it was? Yeah, I don't remember now. Or was it the Feynman? No, the Feynman technique was 2 times ago. Okay. Anyway, so one last thing before we go forward. So one of the other thoughts about streams and knowing what to notice for is the Richard Feynman technique of having 12 big problems that you're interested in solving, that have some element of realism in them, and from the standpoint that not necessarily that you will solve it before you die, but that there is information consistently coming across possibly that is somewhat related in some tangential way. Um, the so that would be the usefulness of having these like 12 powerful questions to guide some of your thinking and to be on the lookout for noticing the answer. So another thing, and then let's kind of got a question, and then I'll take the whole conversation further because I think we've kind of summarized where we've been. Nowadays, everybody is now a coach, whether it's business or personal development. Do you think the market is overcrowded? I want to coach as I love psychology, but currently sell agency services to keep the lights on. How do you differentiate these days? Thanks for all your wisdom, Rich. Um, well, what I would say, George, is that the internet is a huge place. There certainly are a ridiculous number of coaches out there, but fortunately for you and me and a bunch of others, they don't know how to market at all. And while there might be lots of coaches, I question how many great coaches there are. Now, having said that, the internet is a huge place, and what is required is for you to first figure out who you can actually be the best possible choice for. And it doesn't matter how small that group is, because in the beginning, the goal is to kind of put a stake in the ground. And the alternative of going after a group of people that you're not the best choice for is like a segmentation strategy of going after only the dumb people in the market. Because if you're not the best choice, why would they choose you? So you want to put that stake in the ground, and that's what kind of starts the process of first, there's lots of ways to differentiate yourself. But until you have that spot, you have to, there's no point to the differentiation. So find the spot. And then once you have that spot, or if you have it now, ask me the next question, I'll answer it. Uh, Rich, you stated that you have a better looking Rich in Japan. I've heard Jay talk about licensing. How do you set up licensing deals? Other questions would follow this, so hope you give scope like process, compensation, setup, monitoring, anything worth mentioning. Yeah, I'll get to that. You might have to remind me again in case I forget, Omar, but I don't have a problem talking about that. I actually owe Jay a phone call to talk about Japan. Anyway, so I was thinking about this yesterday, and I was thinking about the thought of the T-shaped marketer that I had been exposed to a bunch of years ago. Kind of I saw something that reminded me of it or something. And that got me thinking that I've not really seen any T-shaped entrepreneurs as a diagram. And that many times people tell me they're not really sure would be most useful what would be they're not sure what to learn that would be most useful for them. And so that that got me thinking that we could create a tree, right? We could create a T-shaped entrepreneur, right? And not that there's only one, because there could be many different um, bodies of knowledge or skills that someone could have and still be a T-based entrepreneur. Now, is everyone familiar with T-based? If you saw the email that we sent out or not, can you guys let me know if it is? And while you're doing that, I might pull up a a yeah, I guess I could do it this way. Waiting to hear you guys' answers. So let me know. Sometimes there's a delay, but how familiar are you with the T-shaped uh, skill set? T-shaped growth hacker, T-shaped marketer, T-shaped product manager, that model. And if you are familiar with it, have you ever created one for yourself? You're not. Interesting. Okay, that's interesting, John. John said he's not. And George said he hadn't seen it before. I saw my email. Okay, Alan hasn't seen it, but it's a new concept. Just saw the email and clicked link to join Facebook Live. Never seen it before. Oh, cool. Not really. Is it the Brian Balfour article? I don't know. I saw that there was one or two articles on being a tea-based entrepreneur, but there really wasn't much heft to it. And I first heard about tea-based marketer, T-shaped marketer from Growth Tribe. So, all right. So let's see. How am I going to do this here? I am going to do this. Hopefully nothing embarrassing comes up. No, that's not embarrassing. I don't know why that would happen. Okay, but I'm not broadcasting. Okay, going to update that anyway, though, I guess. Install later. All right. And I'm going to go to another screen here. Whoops. Oops. No. There we go. All right. So first off, this is what I mean by T-shaped, right? Can you guys see that well? I wish, oh, that's kind of cool. You guys don't see all the other stuff. That's neato. Let's see. I can just do this. Yeah. You guys see that? Yeah, I noticed Joe said that Digital Marketer talks about it. I saw that they recently started talking about it for sure. So the idea is that you have these deep, it's like you have the benefit of being a specialist, but you're also a generalist. So you have a specialty, but you're also a generalist, is really one way to look at it. And here are a whole bunch. I know you're not seeing the whole screen, even though it's showing the whole screen on my thing. That's kind of weird because there's like a black, hold on. Why would that be like that? I don't know. Let's do this. There we go. All right. Now it should be better. All right. Well, I can always move stuff. So this is probably, let's see. I'm going to get out of this, I guess. Oops. Yeah, there we go. And let's see. How do I do this? So, yeah, I'm going to take this, do that, and I'm going to do this, and do that, and get rid of this. I see a lot of things on my screen that you guys don't see. That's why I'm getting kind of thrown off. Sorry. Oh, this is a product manager, though. Didn't want to do that one. Wanted to do the Growth Tribe one. All right. Okay, so here it is. Now, this is one. Right now, we're just talking about an example. I'm not suggesting that necessarily that these are the things that you would want to make sure that you know, right? Because part of it would depend on how your business makes money, what's your profit model, where do you see future opportunities coming from, what do you see as the trajectory for your own life. And so there's a lot more to consider, right, than just, you don't want to copy someone's answers on a test when that test determines what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, right? So it only makes sense. But here's, I think, a good example of one, right? I believe this was from Growth Tribe, and I believe that it was moving more, and they were moving more and more towards bringing AI to the growth hacking community, or growth marketing. And so you can see like what skill sets they believe are important. You have front end coding, right? Um, service design, wireframing, right? Designing websites, laying out, uh, behavioral psychology, right? Which we use in marketing and also conversion rate optimization, branding and storytelling. Makes sense. Stakeholder management, just alerting your contemporaries, your bosses, the people that report to you, keeping everyone in the loop. Then web analytics below that, conversion rate optimization, experiment design, funnel marketing, automation and APIs, machine learning and AI, right? Now, the next layer below are all basically, let's see. Well, on the left are all channels for the most part, more or less. And on the right are, they're different. They're not one thing. But you can see that what this person is a content marketer, life cycle marketer, right? So that's their primary role. Everything else the completes the formula of what makes this person um, a talented person to have at a startup for sure, and a very talented person to be running a business. Now, I wouldn't have these skill sets per se as the person running a business, but it is something to kind of look at and study and think about, because um, here's the one for the product manager, right? You can see that not anywhere near the amount of thinking or depth went into this one. They need to be time management, continuous learning, focus, discipline, planning, facilitation, business development. It's kind of nebulous, right? How about product development, uh, market to product match, um, developing minimum viable products, like uh, maximizing sales for, geez, kind of strange. All right. Anyway, so that's kind of, this one is the one I think I put in the email. Another content marketer, right? But this guy's got a lot of different skill sets. And it would make sense, right, that a content marketer would know behavioral psychology because they're going to use that in their writing. They would probably understand copywriting. They'd understand storytelling. So that part of the T is kind of expected, right? But the fact that the person can sketch, Canva, and wireframe means he can create his own graphics for his content, right? The fact that he knows video, that he knows HTML and CSS, he can create his own pages. He knows UX and design, so he can make it look good and high, good customer engagement. So does all this make sense, right? Like, would it make sense to look at a lot of T-shaped? There's now a new idea that's I-shaped, just so you know. I didn't want to, the shape is less important than looking at a bunch of frameworks of what people think are important. I think that's the important point. So, as I'm waiting for you to talk to me for a minute here, um, tell me what your thoughts are, and tell me what your thoughts are now about combining building out a T first, right? And then from there, then building a skill tree to build out that for yourself. Oh, nice, Chris. Nice. Oh, and by the way, guys, totally spaced about this. Um, yeah, Give me some feedback, guys. Let me know. Uh, Maybe I have to wake you guys up. I have to play my DJ air horn. No, what I forgot was what did I forget? I forgot where is the what did I forget? There's the scenes. Where's the layovers? Let's see. Overlays, show overlays. For those who've been asking about steal our winners, oh, I have to go back to here to do that. All right, let's go back here for a second. Is this it? No, that's it, right? Yeah. Cool. All right, let me get rid of Leon. How long ago was this? Guess I'll do that. Um, all right. That's interesting. The market sort of forced me to build the T. Explain what you mean by that. So yeah, tell me about what you guys think about this concept. Like, have you like now that I know that you haven't seen it before, now that you've seen one or two, what do you think about it? And what do you think about kind of starting to define what it is that you need to be as a T, right? And once again, the reason being is that um, by consistently learning one, you keep your mind kind of fresh. But more than that, there are things that you can't do right now that if you had a little bit more knowledge, you might be able to kind of run a little quick test or do a quick little thing, right? And in a day and age where everything is moving so fast, and that oftentimes especially online, where you can rapidly prototype, change on the fly, test out the wazoo. The ability to do that on your own and not be held back by experts is, is certainly beneficial. All right. So he started as a general coach, business consultant. Yeah, it's kind of general. But then really got narrow in lead gen. It seems like a plan for giving intention to the learning and doing planning. Yeah. Should you start as a specialist or a generalist? I guess, well, it depends on what you are right now. Um, I would say that, well, there's this book out. I haven't read it yet. I started it and then I kind of put it aside, called Range, which is about generalists, really. And I'm a generalist, obviously. I mean, I've gone deep in a lot of areas, though, but at the end of the day, I can hold my own with a lot of different experts, but I'm a generalist. The And the truth is that it's a lot easier for a specialist to provide value than it is for a generalist. Um, I don't think I would be happy as a specialist, so there's that. Um, but it certainly is easier to be a specialist, and people ascribe a higher level of expertise with a specialist. Now, in the old days, when I used to talk to my mentor, Stephen Pierce, um, him and I would talk about. Well, I was trying to think like, oh, that this I think was when blogs were first coming out, and if it wasn't blogs, it was podcasts. But we're talking a long time ago, and we were talking about how, well, I think it was blogs, like with experts putting out content all the time. It's like the fake experts are going to kind of be exposed. And we had a whole conversation about that, and then somehow the conversation changed to like what is going to replace the need for experts. And I don't know if range goes down this road, but like what we were talking about all those years ago was the idea of being a synergist, like, and that's not the best word for it, but so, one of the benefits that I can provide um, my high-end clients, because like my business growth system is more designed to give all those mental maps and concepts and distinctions that turn someone into a great entrepreneur in a very short period of time. That's what that's designed to do. Um, the Hold on a second. I totally lost my train of thought. Um, Sorry, guys. Um, but and being yeah, so a synergist, and a synergist being someone who is able to pull in a lot of different areas at once, right? One of the benefits that I have as a generalist, and this is kind of what I was talking about, that I give to my clients, not BGS because that's more about entrepreneurship, but at the higher levels, is that I'm a generalist, but I'm a generalist that's been online since almost day one, right? Which means I've seen every type of advertising, which means I'm familiar enough with every type of advertising, not necessarily to deploy it, but to craft a strategy overall online. So there's very few people who know enough about native, know enough about Facebook, know enough about, pay per click, the Google network, um, business, CRO, funnels, software, live streaming, webinars, like email, copywriting, etc. And so as a generalist, I'm able to also be an agnostic strategist, which there aren't very many online because I've been around longer than any tactic. So I'm not, you know, you ask an SEO guy what's the best marketing strategy. Generally, uh, it's SEO. So anyway, so let's see. Let's go back to. So I would say be a specialist. I couldn't be. Because as you'll see as I do these, I'll be jumping from topic to topic to topic. That's what kind of keeps my brain entertained, I guess. And it's I always follow what I'm curious about. But that's also what allows me to cross pollinate stuff from so many different places. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to do that. That's not necessarily why I do that. I'm just a very curious person. Um, all right. Let's see, latitude and altitude of necessary skill set for success. Looking at it, you can easily spot potential weaknesses easier first seeing it. Good stuff. That's exactly my point, Omar, because so many people told me I don't know what I need to know, right? Well, this is a good start, I would think, because by looking at it, you kind of get a sense. Now, I did see someone write something up about entrepreneurship, and I didn't get a chance to spend any time in it. Um, but let me see here if I can quickly pull it up in my notes. Uh, all right, let's see. I think this might be it. Yep. All right. So let me put on the other. How is that? I think it's the same, right? Let's see. Got to get rid of Chris there. No, we don't want that right now. I'm going to get rid of Chris. All right. And now we're going to go to not this, but this. So I haven't read this yet. Can you guys read it? Can you see it? I can get rid of the strategic profits thing. Oh, and I still haven't, it still didn't post because I can't when I, here, okay. All right. Um, Recent company style, like, harness, all right, skill trees. Okay. Okay, showing some kind of game. All right. The entrepreneurial skill tree is terrifyingly large. Below is a simple version. It's not intended to be complete. Every skill could be could be segmented into sub-skills, and many general skills like communication could apply to each area. Any entrepreneur can evaluate their level in these skills. Let's see, is this written by that Brian guy that, no, it's not written by the Brian guy that Milos thought. Okay, so this is what he has, right? So he has founder, ideation, uh, analytical thinking, sales, fundraising, management, strategy, market research, analytics, project management, design, communication, product intuition, okay, yeah, and engineering, back end, front end, mobile, DevOps, security, scalability, marketing, advertising, SEO, social media, PR, branding, partnerships, operations, HR, legal, customer service, finance, planning, policy. Yeah, I would think that's way too much. And I just wonder if the person who wrote this is an actual entrepreneur. Maybe they are. Seems like quite let's see. Oh, cool. I use OmniGraffle. That's perfect. All right. Don't need it now, though. Let's just see. So I don't really see anything of any great context in here. And I wouldn't necessarily agree with a lot of the things that he put in here. So I think conceptually he's on the right track, but it looks like we're going to have to do the work. Bummer. That's the way it always seems to go, you know? So, all right, let's see what you guys have to say because I'm ready to press forward, but I want some feedback. Smack that feedback. I feel as if the skill tree would be useful. Oh, lost it. For clients, let alone putting into perspective my strengths. I need to see this as I've spent much effort in funnel knowledge, content creation. I'm a B2C copywriter and I sell and source on Amazon and private label seller. Well, actually, I'm doing a thing for Steal Our Winners next week with this like ninja Amazon guy, which finally, no, whoops, I almost pressed finish broadcast by accident. Which finally reminds me, many people have asked, and we had a issue um, with an old domain, but finally, if for anyone who's asked about Steal Our Winners and wants to get in before we ultimately raise the price, that is um, that's where you can order it. And Steal Our Winners is where you get 8 to 12 strategies or tactics each month with the top experts online. Uh, and right now, I believe we still sell it for $45 a year. So each tactic ends up being like 25, 30, 40 cents. And these are strategies and tactics, everything from how do you find, leverage, negotiate, and benefit from influencers to two words that you can put in front of any text ad that boosts response to how to get started, write your first script on YouTube, and how to target people right and get going today, like all kinds of stuff. So anyway, it's up there. Not looking to push it hard or anything like that, but a lot of people had asked, and we didn't have a link that we could have a redirect on. All right, let's see. All right, it shows me that I have not clearly defined what that looks like in my business of getting local businesses found online. I do a number of things, but have not written out what that looks like. Well, that's interesting, Tim. That's not where I'm necessarily going with it, but that is interesting. Like if we think about what some of the things that I think you've been on for, like that business ultimately is a system that you're building for your customer to get an outcome. What skills would or competencies would you need to have, right, to be able to create a better system? That's one type of question. Now, like for someone like me, um, I believe that because we all have different jobs, right? And so part of my job is to come up with ideas. And so certain ideas have made me millions and millions and millions of dollars, others not so much. Um, and what, so I might make a T-shaped version of my role, right? But that is designed for me to have the maximum output of new ideas, creative new ideas. So it might be, and that would take me down a very different set of skill sets, right? Than I would go after if I wanted to be just like, let's say, much better at being more in the trenches on the tactical side, let's say, of internet marketing. I mean, one of the reasons why I do Steal Our Winners is I get the best ideas from the best guys that are in the trenches, right? Um, but if I'm going to go down that road, then yeah, maybe I should learn to code a little bit. Maybe I should learn Infusionsoft. I might do that at some point anyway, right? But then from the other side, if it's all about my main job is to come up with ideas from a marketing side that help us sell products, ideas for products, and ideas that, when shared with entrepreneurs, improve their performance, right? Like then what I need to do is build a T-shaped model that is optimized for idea generation. And so it might be um, I don't know, courses on creativity, improv, right? A very vast, wide um, set of experiences, of learnings, of different things, all that have been associated with amped up creativity, those kinds of things, right? So you have to know, unfortunately, the we didn't start probably like if I had known, where this is a very emergent process. It kind of just goes where it goes. Had I known we were going to go over all this, though, one of the things I definitely would have talked about earlier on is that you must have your own definition of success. Because without your own definition of success, you will never know whether you've achieved it or not. And then you will be at the dictates of what might not be what's in your best interest. And so, how do you define success? What is success? How much money do you make? How much, who are you as a person? What type of relationships do you have? What do you know? What are you able to do? What kind of relationship do you have with yourself? Um, what is success? If you don't define it, you can't create it. And if you can't create it, then this T-shaped model that then should influence creating um, a skill tree is really for naught because you're not going to be satisfied and you're not going to be happy. So it all starts with what is your definition of success? And, the more that time I've spent learning and learning about learning, there is so much benefit to not only defining what success means for you, but defining a lot of your terms. You know, what's the difference between being strong-willed, stubborn, or pig-headed? What's the difference between um, education, persuasion, and manipulation? You know, when we don't have clear definitions on things, it's really easy to 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 mix things up. But we certainly want a definition of what success means for us, and because the T-shaped skill sets are should be a component piece of that, right? Either these are the skills that get you there, or these are the skills and this is the knowledge that allows you to be your ideal self, or whatever. But if you don't know that, then this kind of is irrelevant, right? Um, I would, okay, so let's take a look at some more of these, and then if there's time, I'd love to potentially build one out. All right, so I don't remember what we looked at, so let's see here. Um, all right. For me, my main core skill is NLP. Then I figured I need to learn more sales and marketing to make an NLP business. No, so yeah, the main core skill is NLP, but then there's a lot of other stuff that you would need to know, right, in order to have a successful business with NLP. And there would probably need to be a good marketing component somewhere because, as most technicians don't like hearing, but it's the person who knows how, it's not the person who does NLP the best that makes the most. It's not the person who knows NLP the most that makes the most. It's the person who knows how to market NLP the best that makes the most. And so at the end of the day, your income is more derivative and more correlated with your ability to market it, right? So just for what it's worth. Do you have a framework for, Brandon wants to know, do you have a framework you use for deciding which stories to use in your marketing? And any thoughts or tips on tying in your story to have your offer in like a webinar or VSL? I have a few different personal stories I'm mapping out and thinking. Yeah, the well, I mean, I don't have a framework per se, but I did learn this from, I believe, Michael Cage, another good friend of mine, wicked smart. Hold on. An intersection of journeys. So if you look at like my webinar, um, the webinar, my last version, right, was about me and my story, how I succeeded in the fashion business in my early 20s, then the music business, then the hypnosis business, then 9/11 happened, then I lost a lot of money, then I went online, then I struggled for 2 years. And in the explanation of how I struggled, my hope is that, and for most people it's true, that my story and the pain and the things that I did and the effects that they had are similar to, if not the same, as my audience. Okay. Then I go further, explain what changed for me. I do some other things too, but don't want to get into that. Go further, explain what changed for me, and now I'm successful online, obviously, right? So you have this story of a guy who was successful in many industries, got online, failed for 2 years, figured out what he was doing wrong, and now he's successful. All right. So what that story kind of has is that the story of me, right? But let's just use it as a template for a story. It means that the hero, not the hero, but the protagonist of this story, me, was someone who has succeeded online now and also succeeded offline, but following the wrong strategy, the same strategy that the people watching the webinar are following, uh, he failed. So the only time he failed in his life was following a strategy that I'm now following. And I know this to be the case because I'm going through the same thing he's experiencing. And what that is an intersection of journeys, which automatically then goes to the next thought in their mind. He's already where I want to be. He was where I am. Like, if I hitch my wagon to this guy, he's going to take me to the promised land. They don't necessarily say that, but that's the thought, as it would be your thought or my thought if we bumped into someone who was one time struggling with what we're exactly struggling with right now, and we look at their life and they've got it all figured out. We want to know, we want to follow that person. So hopefully, Brandon, that makes the connection for you. Christy, you got to track down Pennsylvania. I thought that was like the most genius recommendation that anyone's thrown out there, and I'm still sad that it wasn't mine. So for our olive oil company, I think I need to learn how to do more effective Facebook ads for lead gen, better tweak of my email marketing to add upsells and back end offers, get better control over our website, as well as to add coupons and pop ups. Well, I can't tell you, Christy, if you're right or not. I don't know. I don't know, what are all the things that you do day to day in your job, but you certainly want to track down those Gary Bencivenga ads. I'm going to keep bothering you until you tell me you did it. Charles Dockstader, I wanted to focus my marketing energy on the parts that matter, convert and sell long term. I want to be more in investing. What do you recommend? What do you recommend including for my T-shaped map? Okay, I want to focus my marketing energy on the parts that matter, convert and sell. Long term, I want to be more in investing. Well, what does your business do, Charles? Like at the end of the day, you have to provide value too, and part of that probably needs to be reflected in the T. You can't just convert and sell all day, every day, because at some point someone will pass you, and now you'll not necessarily have the best offer, best product, best service. Um, Being a generalist, doesn't that make it easier to spot things across different ideas and concepts? Yep, certainly does. That could be used together to create a more powerful way of marketing a product or offer that especially may not see. Yep, that is true. We are more home run hitters at times. Growth Tribe has a T-shaped marketer assessment online now for each of the 2020 skills. Very cool. I mean, I wouldn't take theirs as gospel, but I do like Growth Tribe. They're using it, I'm sure, as a funnel to sell their seminars. So heads up on that. I don't have anything bad to say about them. I don't know how good or bad their seminars are, but they've put out really good content over the years, and so I'm a fan. Um, Seems like being a generalist would be best if you had a team. If you're solo, seems like a specialist would be best. Correct or no? Not necessarily, Charles. You know, it depends on what it takes to get the business going, right? Like, so in general, like one of the things that I teach entrepreneurs is to create a grid of all the pieces that have to kind of, all the activities that have to happen in that business. The bigger the circles on the grid, right? And the circles are people, the more skills they can kind of pitch in on, the less employees you need in the beginning. So you don't really get like specialized experts until like you have grown to such a level that like there's best practices like in crafting an email, and there's tons of people who just do the coding of emails at Agora, stuff crazy like that. So no, you generally start with generalists, and as a business grows, you move more to specialists. And in fact, the T-shaped model, one of the things is that most tech companies wanted to hire T-shaped marketers because in a startup stage, having someone like that can do a lot of things and be around and pitch in, and where you don't have employees in every role. Bought SOW 2 weeks ago, and it's awesome. The sheer amount of tactics. I couldn't find the report writing workshop, though. I thought we'll be getting it. I looked on the old sales page. Maybe I misunderstood the copy. Milo, send me the copy, because if we promise that, I think there's a 2-hour training, not the full report writing workshop. But whatever we promise, if you don't have it, let me know, because we will make sure that you do, and that we didn't make a mistake on our side. How do you break the programming? We've been told what success is for so many years. Yeah, well, but you just you have to. Well, this is such an easy thought, and yet so profound. Like I still am trying to really internalize it. This that life is an internal experience 100% that we mistake as an external experience. And that's the quote, right? Like, and there's so much truth to that. Life is an internal experience we mistake for an external experience. All these words that we create, like friends, like show me a friend. A friend does not exist. Like it's a concept, right? Um, anyway, um, so but we have the experience of pursuing goals. I think most of us do, achieving those goals and being happy for like a week or two. And what I discovered in all the goals that I've ever achieved, I've been happy for a week or two. And then life went back to normal. And when I achieved all the things I wanted to achieve much earlier on, and I was not happy, that's what caused a midlife crisis for me. And that was when I was like, well, what's the point of having goals if, I'm working my ass off to achieve these goals and then I achieve them and I'm happy for a week or two. And anyway, so that's why it's kind of important, right? Like to figure it out, like for yourself. I can tell you, for me, that it took me a long time, and I don't think I have all the answers, right? Like by any stretch. But like I kept asking myself, what is it that I want? What is it that I want? Like what is it that what would make me happy? And what I kind of came to for myself was that I am most happy when I'm in pursuit. And this is where, like, the idea of a bigger cause, this is where, like, this all kind of comes together for me. That I am happiest when I'm in pursuit, like a predator, right? Like that I think all human beings are. And that ready to pounce, like when the opportunity presents itself, like strategically for me to pounce. But I'm not a flurry of activity, and I'm not, that's not me. And that therefore my goals, like the way that I look at goals, is that the only purpose of a goal is to get me pursuing something. And so if it doesn't motivate me to get in pursuit, then it's not the right goal, because the only purpose of a goal for me is to keep me in the game of life, to like. And I believe that, like, what I'd like to get to, right, is recognizing, and this might be too heady for some of you guys, and if it is, I apologize, but that to to live life like as if my life were on the line all the time, primarily because, like, play the game of life like my life depended on it, because I recognize that my life doesn't depend on anything. And uh and at the end of the day you die, right? So like that's it's about like living life. And so anything that gets me engaged in life is helping me live life. And anything that is having me settle or having me pull back is anti life, in my opinion. That's kind of the way I look at it. So, you know, you don't have to break the programming, I guess, is a long winded answer, George. If you really feel like that's what's going to make you happy, if the picket white fence house, like if that's your goal, and whatever, like that's great, good for you. Um, the problem is not having any clarity. That's the problem, and not having any idea of what success is. Um, you know, that's the problem. Thank you, Rich. Thanks for the advice. Cool. Um, I like the visual format of the T-shaped model. I would layer on a scorecard so I can rate myself and measure my progress. Can we build a T or a skill tree for entrepreneurs? CRM. That's your business, Charles? You have a CRM? Thanks, Rich, for the feedback. I like the idea of intersection of journeys. It helps connect to prospects emotionally too. I think this is similar to how we feel with our favorite character in a movie and how we relate to that character subconsciously, at least. Yeah, sure. Okay. Hey, just got into this T-shaped live event. I was just wondering, given the fact that I've been focusing on internet marketing for the past 13 years, and what, Cheryl? Sorry. I don't know if I was reading the first part. Uh, Hey, sorry, just got in this T-shaped live event. I was just wondering, given the fact that I have been focusing on internet marketing for the past 13 years, and sorry, got cut off, given that I have. Yeah, you still haven't. What about that, Cheryl? Epiphany hit. If you have a side hustle, then you're an employee to your future self. From that perspective, it is then how do you become the best employee today for your future CEO self? And that I think would determine what is crucial necessary on your T-shaped tree for success. Yeah, that's certainly one way to look at it for sure, Omar. Yeah, definitely. All right. I work for CRM Smash Innovations right now, working to have my own agency at some point. From there, I want to build a team that takes over my agency while I move into consulting, where I would apply knowledge and skills learned on my path. I don't plan to be in consulting for 5 to 10 years from now. I want to become a specialist in funnels, then later in life want to invest in primarily. I'm 22, if that helps you understand. Oh, cool. All right. So I guess that's your dad there in honor of Father's Day. Okay. So then the question is that um, Charles, like, if you want, I don't know the answer to this right now, and it's probably because it's late and I'm kind of fried a little bit. But what I would say is to look at what skills, right, would be useful in both starting an agency and in selling more and your job for CRM Smash Innovations, right? For the Smash Innovations right now. And the only way you can do that is if you kind of like set up like what skills would allow you to improve in your current job, what skills are necessary for having an agency. And in general, what I would say is, and I'm definitely not an expert on agencies, but the people I know that do really well with agencies are people that generally are really good at one channel. Like, and so people are like extremely happy for that person to be managing their stuff in that channel. So, I don't know if you're a subscriber to Steal Our Winners. If you are, then, a lot of the guys that I talk to are guys that have their own, in Steal Our Winners, have their own agencies. And because they're so good at that channel, they generally have their own businesses also leveraging those channels as well. Um, so what I would look at first is are there any skills that overlap? Because that would help you make more money right now, and it would just be one step closer to the agency. And I would then also be thinking about like reading about like what are the skills that like a media buying agency or whatever kind of agency you're um, want to build. What do they need to know? And uh, what does that path look like for you? So that's part of it. I think we'll probably get to the skill trees next time, just because I think I want to make a lot of boxes for them and I want to think it through a little bit. All right. The purpose of any goal is to keep me in the game of life. Yeah, well, that's what it is for me because I spent 5 years on the sidelines trying to figure it out. Uh, cool. Glad to hear, George. Um, oh, sweet. Cool, Christy. Am I boring you, Mike Paul? Is that what you're trying to tell me? If it is, that's okay. Let me know. So true. Life changes by what we experience. It has a tendency to guide our decisions, which sometimes may not be in our best interest. Sometimes we don't have any logic to our thoughts, and we're pure emotion, which can take us down the wrong path in life and business. Yes, I totally agree, which is why we use System 2 to think through things for System 1, and we leave digital artifacts like our notes, right? So System 1 can just like find those. And we use a skill tree so that we remember like what path we're trying to take because of where we want to go, not necessarily just pick up the next book or buy the next course because it's being marketed to us aggressively. Um, Strange words to hear from someone who sells information, isn't it? But that's the truth, right? Like there's a time and place for stuff, and if you're on a path, then you should follow that path, unless you have heard otherwise that there's a better path to follow. One of the things that used to bum me out, I like on coaching calls would be, I bought this product, that product, that product, that product, and now I'm trying to figure out what business to do. And I'm like, well, why did you buy all those products? Well, you bought the how before you figured out the what. Like, you got to figure out the what before the how. You don't figure out how to do a bunch of things and now say, what can I do with it? You figure out what you want to do and then you say, how do you do it? So, yeah, I think like a skill tree, once you've built something out like a T-shaped model of who you could be in your ideal state and like what those benefits would be to you, it's not learning for just learning purposes. It's learning skill sets and bodies of knowledge that would allow you to either do things you currently can't do things better than you currently do, right? Like those kinds of things. Communicate with different groups of people that you might need to in your job, right? Like stuff like that. Okay, we're gonna try again, Cheryl. Given that I have focused online marketing for over 10 years, wasted money buying a lot of courses in the beginning and not using them as I was still in law school, learned much from free webinars after that and personal development, applied for a few years with what I learned from free webinars, didn't succeed, been sick, don't work much in law yet. Okay, Cheryl, are you getting somewhere? I thought you're like, I was thinking you were gonna get to the point there. Uh, what have you been doing in those 5 years? How could you manage to stay off work? Um, well, I went on a transformation binge, and I mean, I never stopped working 100%, but I stopped working 90%. So there are many weeks where I was doing nothing, and then in certain weeks where maybe I was doing one day of work. Um, but yeah, like it wasn't a fun time. It's not like semi-retiring is fun for like a year or two. I've done it. I did it in my 20s. And what I mean by semi-retire is like I had a lot of money and not enough to live the rest of my life or anything like that, but where I could certainly live well for 2 years, not have any pressure, you know, maybe 5 years even, and or 10 years. And but at some point I would have to work again, and so it's really just about like not having any day-to-day responsibilities, not that kind of thing. And but I also worked insanely hard before that. Um, so you know, all-nighters all the time, like kind of a machine. So there's that. So anyway, let's see. Should we get into this? Like, I mean, I guess we could start. We could start the skill tree. Um, all right, Cheryl. It's the last chance, Cheryl. Um, want to do design as I start downloading designs from thin air in 2007 or so, but focused on internet marketing for my family and wanted to do more of law for my grandparents, but didn't succeed fully at anything yet. Since I'm sick, which should I focus on? How do I know from the many industries, design, property, car, boats, electronic, and luxury fashion, among others, to pick? First, then, I want to do them all, but want to do them in like a dominoes effect where one thing hits the next, etc., until I do them all and make a big impact in the world. How can I know what to do first, then, and where to start from law, design, or online marketing? Um, Geez, Cheryl. You got to do a bunch of introspection, Cheryl. Like, I certainly can't give you the answer. You know, the, I'm not even totally clear on the question, although I understand where the question is coming from. And, like, okay, first off, Cheryl, what I would say is forget the idea that there is a right way of doing this. There is no right way. There might be several smart ways of doing it and many dumb ways of doing it, but there is no one right way. And a smart way might not succeed because, like, the world changes consistently. We don't know, right? Um, so, like, so that's first and foremost because, you know, one of the things that's very true to this time frame, but it ain't changing. So from this point forward, is that we're inundated with choices. There was a really great book written by Barry Schwartz, Paradox of Choice, that talks about the more choices we have, the more likely we will be dissatisfied with our decision. So when we get more choices, we spend more time making the decision, and then we're generally less happy with the decision, right? It's the same concept, really, of why, like, um, why more well, I don't even want to go down that road, not today. But so I don't want you to think, like, when you're picking your choice that there is some right choice and then get all stressed about it. um what I would recommend you do, Cheryl, is buy the book Little Bets, Little, Bets, Bets, and think about the story of Chris Rock in there, which I think it starts with that story or ends with it. So I hope it doesn't end with it. About creating an HBO comedy special, which I've talked about numerous times on this live stream. Not today, but other times. And the way he does it is, and the way every great comedian does it is they go to comedy club after comedy club, testing little bits, seeing what the reaction is, blah blah blah. Right? You have to make little bets on the stuff that you want to do, little small bets that will give you some kind of response, some kind of reaction. Based on that reaction, if something is responding, I would then go in that direction. I would use an emergent strategy. I would allow response to dictate actions, and be somewhat reactive in the beginning, because you want to be responding to something that's actually responding to you. Hope that helps. I can. I don't know that I'm going to do that tonight because that's like a whole nother topic, but I certainly can, Milos. I still read a lot in that area. I'm a huge Werner Erhard fan. Huge. I met him once. I'd love to get the chance to know him and learn from him directly. That's why I would wanted to do funnels. That way, I could build skills now for later and help revenue for the company I work for. Part of the struggle is my youth and inexperience. There's so much in all these areas I don't even know about yet. That's why I asked my question. I figured you being experienced in marketing and your connections with people related to where I want to go, maybe you could help me understand some of what those skills and things are that overlap in those three areas. Oh, okay. Well, copywriting for sure. Uh, Funnels would be useful. But the way you learn funnels is by putting a bunch together. And today, with like click funnels and stuff, that's super easy. Um, And then I would say copywriting, advertising creative, and funnels. That would be three areas that I think would be very useful to spend time on. Uh, if you were going to do anything else like first party data, but I think that makes it more complicated and not as easy to look at. The reason I'm saying funnels, advertising, creative, and copywriting is that it's only a matter of time until the algorithms at Facebook and Google are so good that you won't need a media buyer. But when that happens, uh, your advertising will be completely based on, your effectiveness will be based on your creative. And Yeah, so there's that. Um, so hopefully that helps. I've been reading and going through courses, trying to get a better understanding of what I need to learn and where I should focus my efforts. Your email spoke so directly to me. LOL, I had to join. By the way, I did sign up for your 24-hour live stream for CSOB. Oh, cool. Um, yeah, interesting that it resonated. I wonder why it resonated with you. So, well, I would say then that um, you're you're on the right path. Um, steal our winners would be great for you, but not trying to push you towards that. That would kind of give you a sense of who the people are, maybe that you should be studying and looking at. But uh, but I think you're on the right path, and the I would imagine that the CRM system that you work for, they're probably doing media buying. They probably have a copywriter. Like if you can work with them, that's a good start. Show your interest, be willing to take on projects, learn by working with them. That's always a great way to learn, like kind of get a mentor. Yeah, like whoever thought you could sell a rock as a pet to a bunch of people and make money, if someone would have said they were going to do that, you say it would never work. Yeah, of course. I would have been wrong. For sure. Cool. You're welcome, Charles. Can't wait to hear about your experiences. My mentor, Selvinsky, had been in contact with Earhart in the 80s. His teacher definitely a part of a therapeutic system I use with clients. Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, we got 10 minutes left. I don't think there's any reason today to go further. I bought your copywriter's course, seven-figure copywriting. It's not my copywriter course. I don't have a copywriting course. Maybe Valdo's? Valdo's piece of shit, you know? So I'm not sure which copywriting course. I'm not a copywriter per se. I mean, I've written some slam and sales letters, but I've only written them to my own market. So that would be totally different. All right, guys. Well, so okay, I think we did the T thing okay. I think I could have done it better and taken it a little bit further. So I apologize to you on that. I think that would it be useful to build out a T next and then turn that into a skill tree? Should we start with like a maybe a mind map, kind of thinking about all the skills and then what categories they go into, and then from categories, what topics, kind of build it out that way, and then kind of go through the process. Um, the let's see. Carl, I am just starting out with my business. I teach guitar and have some guitar courses. I am also nearly finished a book about how to learn more guitar in less time. Should I give the book away as a lead magnet or should I give it away for free and include links to my upsells? Well, when you say links to your upsells, you know, it all depends. You can always have a self-liquidating offer after you give it away, so an upsell right behind it, which is probably the best way to go. I have found that when you put like links in, if you don't do it deftly, you end up not really not coming across in the best way and not being the most effective. And better off to have people come to your site, have links to your site, but not to a product that you're currently talking about or anything, and have it design it so that they bump into the product. But not like you should buy my product and blah blah, because that then takes everything else and makes it like all salesy. And so that's what I would be thinking about. So Tim says that that would be helpful. What has you talking about the pet rock, Don? Like on the thought of the pet rock, what do you think made that work? Art of persuasion. Interested in your thought on that. People thought it was funny, and then a trend, right? Um, I don't remember. Like I'm familiar with it, but I wasn't around, or if it was, like I didn't see the origin, which would obviously have some impact. Um, how we, upon starting to build our own two-shaped graph, would approach the project would be pretty cool to go over next time, says John. All right, well, let's do that. I also, I never thought of this, but I also thought it'd be cool to do a poll and just figure out on the fly what we talk about. I think that would be kind of cool too. Like whoever shows up decides what we talk about. But yeah, so we'll start with the mind map, and then we'll move to a tree, and then or a T shape, and then we'll move to a tree. And that'll be fun. So great talking to everyone. I will finish 2 minutes early, so I get to spend a little bit more time with my daughter, which is awesome. So it's New York behind me. I don't know if you can see it, not really very well. We're on the 37th floor. Crazy cool view, but can't see it. And yeah, so anyway, speak to everyone on Tuesday at 2 p.m. to Higher Profits and Beyond. Rich Sheffrin over and out.